everybody. Welcome to the SnoWest Show. I'm Ryan Harris. Real quick before we get into this episode, the SnoWest Show is made possible thanks to Polaris Snowmobiles. The Polaris Gift the Outdoor Holiday Sales Event is going on right now. Find the perfect gift for your loved one or for a Polaris fanatic with offers up to $3,000 off on select mountain sleds at your local Polaris dealer. Also, right now, you can take $50 off $250 purchase or $150 off a $750 purchase on all parts, accessories, and gear during the Gift the Outdoors Holiday Sales Event. Go see your local Polaris dealer to gear up for this upcoming riding season. Also sponsoring the show is 320 Guest Ranch, located in Big Sky, Montana, only 5 minutes away from Buck Ridge and Carrot Basin. 320 Guest Ranch offers lodging and accommodations for your next snowmobiling trip. Single cabins, large cabins. These full cabins have kitchens available. Check it out at 320ranch.com. Thanks also to Fly Racing for sponsoring the show and helping us bring this content to you. Fly Racing is the #1 gear brand in Supercross and Motocross, and they bring that same product innovation to snowmobiling. Whether it's monosuits, helmets, boots, gloves, goggles, Fly Racing has got you covered for your snowmobiling gear head to toe. Check them out at flyracing.com or at Fly Racing Snow on socials. And thanks to Deviant Ink for supporting the show. Head on over to deviantink.com, check out their custom wrap builder with their new interactive design tools that make designing and customizing wraps super easy. Their new colorizer tool randomizes color combinations until you land on the look that you love. Then you can try the design mixer tool to see all the Deviant Ink designs in the colors that you've selected. Check that out more at deviantink.com. Thanks for being a listener. Now on to the show. Welcome to the SnoWest Show. I'm your host, Ryan Harris. We're here at the Utah Snowmobile Show. Wrapping things up here. We have Bruce Kerbs and Justin Stevens, test riders for SnoWest Magazine and part of the SnoWest podcast crew. We're really missing out. We've done, this will be our 6th podcast we've done this weekend.
Yeah.
We haven't really mentioned too much about, Brock and Rhett not being around.
Brock who?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. We did see Brock's sister today. So.
We did.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I've never met his sister.
We hadn't either.
He hadn't either.
I didn't even
Brock's
know.
best friend had never met his sister.
I didn't. Yeah. Huh. I don't know.
Anyway, so on to the show. So yeah, we've had some great episodes here. Today, though, on this episode, we're just going to talk about some random topics that we kind of came up with. And, this kind of was born of whenever we talk about snowmobiles. We just wrapped up a show talking about the 4 sleds that we would put in a trailer if we had to pick 4 snowmobiles for ourselves. And it kind of all evolves into the same machines that we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
Which are the bulk of the machines that people want to talk about and want to get information about. But anyway, we're going to try to branch out a little bit. But a few random questions that we're going to dive into here just to get a conversation going.
Okay.
First one, though. What is your method for getting yourself unstuck? Because I was going to ask this to Brett Rasmussen because...
Well, when you ride a cat, you don't get stuck.
And the show is over.
I'm just kidding.
Bruce is like, anybody there? Anybody got a copy?
First, you call your friends, especially if it's really bad.
No, get yourself unstuck.
Oh, get yourself unstuck.
I do not have any friends.
I thought that's how he gets himself unstuck.
I've rode with people, though, that will have to call you, and you have to go get their sled unstuck, and they sit and watch you because they're out of breath.
Yeah.
But I don't ride with them people
We
anymore.
don't ride together that often.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of times, in today's sleds, you can roll them over. So that's huge.
Well, but walk through the process. Like you just got yourself stuck. Describe like the stuck, how bad you got stuck, what the sled looks like, and how you're doing that.
Okay. Well, it's usually like this. Vertical.
For all of you listening.
Right, which is really this. It's like this.
I guess you get stuck and you assess the situation as far as where's your downhill. We're rolling because, of course, you want to roll downhill, right? You can't roll uphill. But, yeah, a lot of times, depending on, I guess, how you're stuck, 9 times out of 10 you can roll them, which is nice because back in the day you couldn't roll a carbureted machine. You'd spend the next 30 minutes trying to start it because it was flooded. But
or you'd break the hood.
Yeah, break the hood or something else.
Yep, and I've broke pull cords, too, trying to start them so much. But I guess when you're stuck, there's a lot of different stucks. I guess in a tree well, you're stuck pretty good, but you break the shovel out, honestly, and sometimes you think, I can get this out, and then after about 20 minutes, you're like, man, I should have got the shovel out a long time ago. But I've come to where I've just throw your pack off, pull the shovel out, and start digging, because honestly, you want to save your energy. You know, you don't want to overwork. That's the worst thing, is to get stuck early on in a ride, or 2 or 3 times, and then the rest of the ride you're riding out of control because you're out of breath and you're tired.
Isn't the worst thing though when you just try to stomp the snow down a little bit and then just try to pin and wiggle as hard as you can, but all you do is like fill this little void that you're sitting in with exhaust.
Yeah. And then you get choked out by the exhaust.
You choke yourself off and you're ripping your helmet off and you're laying in the snow.
Panic.
Yeah, that's stuff's deadly.
I think we've all
that's where
been there.
it's just so much smarter to just take a minute and just pull your shovel out, take the helmet off, and really dig out.
Yep.
What do you do, Justin?
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was just like thinking, okay, all the different stucks, because I think I've learned to. You can't really control how you get stuck, but if you start to see that maybe that's going to happen, to try and set up for the possibility of just rolling it over. I've gotten stuck in a position before where if you get in the right position, it actually, you're getting stuck, but maybe it makes it easy to roll out of it and stuff. And then there's the other one where you're just flat out stuck. And those they just suck. Like you said, I really think probably take a minute. Take your helmet off. I've done the panic. The worst when you can't get your helmet off, and you're just like you're gonna pass out. But yeah, sometimes I get in a hurry and then, like you say, you almost get more stuck, or then sometimes waiting for a ski pole actually makes a big difference too. But
yeah, sometimes late in the day, if you're riding in the trees, sometimes you're separated. And I've even been to a spot where I've been stuck before. I know. Either I'm ahead of everybody or I'm behind everybody and I'm stuck and everybody's gone or not caught up yet. But it's kind of getting late in the day, and I've had them moments of stuck where I'm like, I'm stuck. Like, I'm going to be a minute. And not that panic starts setting in, but you're late in the day.
Right.
You're tired. Night's coming. Most of the time we have enough survival gear. You could probably stay a night, but you almost got to just take a breath. Let's analyze the situation here, which is the best way. But sometimes you're stuck, and it takes a while to get you out. So... Anyway, there's all them thoughts that kind of ran through your head depending on what stuck you are in.
There's an art to getting stuck. Like you were alluding to, like if you're getting stuck, like turn one way or the other and give yourself a little bit of a...
Yeah. Even start downhill maybe before you come off the sled or something like that, so that it's a quick and easy roll.
Yeah. Try to get yourself, rather than pointed straight up the incline, go left or right a little bit so you've got a downhill to work with on the rollout.
Yep.
Sometimes on these turbos you can get off and kind of stand on the snow and push them a little bit and just get the back end to dig down a little deeper, and then you can flip it over backwards. I've done that a few times.
Yeah, that's true.
If you can get it to stand up straight in its trench, you can just walk around and push the front end over and flop it onto its handlebars. Yeah. And then go drag, once it's out of the trench, you can spin it around.
Yeah. Yep.
Probably the worst stuck I've been on by myself was it was at Snowshoot, and I was on a cat, and we were on the backside of Two Top, and I had gone up. We were in this one zone with great trees, and Carl Kuster was up there, and everybody was just going everywhere trying to test as a group of photos were being done. And I did a line, and I wound up getting stuck against this group of trees, like 3 trees. One was against the running board, one was against the side panel, and one was hooked around the back of the ski. Oh. And I'm kind of at an uphill off camber, so I can't drag it backwards because I'm hooked around a tree. Ski's hooked around a tree, and it's a big tree. And I can't pull it side. I can't go downhill at all because my downhill side is against 3 trees. And
you're gonna hook.
That took me probably 2 hours of shoveling.
Really?
Yeah. I had to shovel it far enough, and like the uphill side, I had to shovel that away.
So you can
build up a little bit of ramp, and then have enough room to move the snowmobile away from the trees, and then finally crept out and went. But
wow. Did you have a saw?
I had a saw, but I think I cut one of the 3 trees. But there comes a point where cutting a tree
isn't going to help.
In front of you helps, but cutting a tree to the side of you, like you got to dig down a few feet to get it away from interfering on your drive out. And I don't know. Okay, next question. Where do you carry all of your equipment? As for tunnel bags, backpacks, what do you carry and where do you put it?
I think I've kind of gotten in the habit, and maybe it's a little different with how we've been riding because we're always jumping from sled to sled. So I've gotten I'll put a few heavier things, waters and things in the sleds, but a lot of the stuff that I need maybe for survival or safety, all the safety equipment, of course, goes in the backpack. So, but I haven't used a tunnel bag in a long time, but it's usually because we're hopping from sled to sled. So, but I don't know. I think my pack's maybe a little heavier than I'd like it to be sometimes, and sometimes it's nice to shed that. But I think even Steph alluded to that last night. They're like, there is a certain level of gear that you really should have in your pack in case you get separated from your sled, because that's always a possibility.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I haven't had. I mean, I'll stuff waters in the back seat if there's a compartment, or in the, in the handlebar bag or whatever. But most of the time, the survival stuff's in the back. I will throw water in there, some socks.
You can start packing 2 pairs of socks. now?
Yeah, you
if I
might need a couple.
If I go with Brock,
What brand of socks do you usually think? Yeah, Stan.
High quality.
Nothing but the
Super
best.
soft material.
Yeah, nothing but the best.
Super absorbent.
Right, exactly. But I will actually put my tools and stuff in my handlebar bag, some zip ties, the saw, or the windshield bag, or whatever's on the sled. I don't usually put that in my backpack. So, but a lot of survival stuff, like you said.
I find, you guys have owned your own sleds and gone that route before. I've always just been on loaner units, media test units. We get a fleet of snowmobiles in October, and we run them all winter, and we give them back in May, and we do all of our evaluations on that. So I find that if somebody in a group has a tunnel bag and I put something in there, I might as well just hand them my jacket in the trailer and just say, here, keep this.
Right.
Because I'm never going to remember.
The chances of you needing that jacket or wanting that jacket and them being around is
it's always on the wrong sled for me. Yeah. But if I just have my one sled, I think I would do like this, the lowest profile tunnel bag I could find, and just keep tools in there. But I would want that weight like right up against the seat.
Small.
Or I'm not a big fan of handlebar bags. Like I've ridden with handlebar bags with a lot of weight in them, and they either rub on something or the snow builds up around there, and then they're dragging in the snow a little bit, and then there's a little bit of weight involved in it. It does affect the way the sled feels.
Yeah,
to a degree. But I mean, these are probably pretty dumb things to talk about because most people won't care. It's worth the trade-off. But,
right.
Yeah. I've had tunnel bags pull the tether before. That's not fun because usually it's in a spot where you need your motor running. But
I just hate a tunnel bag getting in the way of going from one side of the sled to the other.
Yeah.
Like hitting my foot on it or dragging your leg on it, or I'll put my foot on top of the tunnel at times too, just to put pressure on the tunnel at some point. And if there's a bag there, sometimes that's an issue. But
yeah,
I don't know. Next question, and this was yours. The riding group dynamics. What do you do differently based on the group of people that you ride with, or how has the group of people you ride with changed over the last 5 years or so?
I mean, I love to go into the trees and go tree riding. I've gone away from the straight up mountain climbing due to avalanche danger. It just scares me anymore. Even some of them, you're going through the trees and you see an opening spot. I don't know, I just have a fear of avalanches. But so I love to go in the trees. I love to explore, drop into ravines and see if you can get up the other side. So yeah, sometimes when you get a certain phone call or a invite with a group, sometimes you got to change your riding dynamics to go with that group, and you may not get to do what you want. Or if somebody's like, hey, I want to go with you guys riding, it all depends on kind of experience of the riders and the group that's coming with you, I think, is what changes your riding dynamics a little bit. You've kind of got to cater to your group a little bit. There are those times where if you take a bunch of, or a few inexperienced, if we're stopped for lunch, a couple of the guys that you ride with all the time bust up through the trees and go explore for a little bit and then come back. So I think it depends on, you kind of got to cater to your least experienced rider so you don't get them in trouble. For one, you always think of safety first, at least I try and do. So I think that's a lot of it. And then, is that?
Yeah, I kind of think back about what we were talking about yesterday with Duncan and Steve Martin. We used the example of Dave McClure.
Yeah.
Like if Dave arranges the ride,
Yes.
what kind of ride that's going to be. Like it's going to be like we're gonna go drop into something that we don't know because we're looking for an adventure. We're looking for something that is going to cause things to go wrong, and people are going to get stuck, and you're going to be up against rocks and trees, and you're exploring new terrain, which is part of the experience.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's part of the thrill of snowmobiling, backcountry snowmobiling. At least for us, for our group. I know what our group is like.
Yeah.
And backcountry safety kind of contradicts that to a degree, but as long as you know your group and you're comfortable with each other, you have communication, you have radios, and you know what everybody's doing, you can implement that level of adventure into your ride and still be in the safe category.
Yeah.
But it's when you throw a few unknowns in there, well, we brought a couple new guys, and he says he can ride, but I don't know,
Yeah.
and he's on an older sled, and I don't know if it runs right. Like that's when suddenly an adventuresome ride with McClure changes because somebody's new with a sled that may or may not run great or could have issues, and I don't know. What do you think, Justin?
No, that for sure. I remember, I think it always changes. I mean, it depends on, there are different skill levels. And, I used to ride with a bunch of guys like a lot of years ago. I mean, back before people spent a lot of time in the trees, I think there was a lot of meadow riding, a lot of, point and shoot, like big climbs was kind of popular there for a while, especially with
and
some
about
of the
anybody could follow you.
Yeah.
In and do the same stuff.
Yeah, pretty much, and which can create some danger and stuff. And maybe as we've learned a little bit more about some of the dangers of the backcountry and become more educated, I think that it does bring in some of those questions. So it is hard. I mean, I remember wishing I could go with a group once, and they were kind of like, "Well, it's a different group." And I remember I was like, "What do you mean?" But I do think like there is a point at which if you're going on a Dave McClure ride, there are probably a few people that maybe shouldn't go on that ride, or well, or if the ride's not going to change for them, then maybe that's not it. But but yeah, then when I started doing, I remember people used to always wish they could go with us when we did our filming and photo shoots and stuff like that. But when I'm doing photo and video, it's a whole different ride. Like I'm like, I don't think you want to go with us like on a photo day. Photo day is not really a fun day. It's just you watching guys do stuff, and it's a lot of stopping, a lot of starting. I mean, to even to that point, but most of my skill, where I gained most of my skills riding snowmobiles, literally was just following Rob and Dave around into places that, I mean, every day you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, this is crazy. Like, what are we doing? But it does push you to a different level. So I don't know. It's hard to, think.
I don't know if you want to tell the story, but you had an Arctic cat that got pancaked.
Oh yeah.
And that was, but that kind of goes with the territory of being in the industry and doing the marketing for a company and creating content.
Yeah.
You wind up in these situations that most people don't, but still.
Yeah, and that was kind of just a fluke. I mean, honestly, we were in an area, a zone that everybody was familiar with to some degree, but we were repositioning cameras and some things, and somebody didn't get that communication. But that was also before probably everybody had radios. We could have been a little more careful, but yeah, I remember hearing a sled jump in the air, and I had my back turned, and I just turned and looked, and there was a sled coming at me. So I took a step away from my sled, and he just pancaked it, and he flipped down the hill. And so it was one of those things where, like, I don't know how in that huge area that we were riding, you can have two sleds come together at the same time, but it can happen. And so, but yeah, you do have to be careful. You got to have ways to communicate. Probably know the skill level of people and be smart. But I'd say most of the riding that we do now, though, is probably just kind of playing in the trees. Every once in a while, we'll kind of break out into some open areas if it's a low risk day, and that's always fun, just to go float, go anywhere you want. So,
I do remember Rob back in the day. He'd always have a couple rides a year that he'd invite certain people due to skill set, because it was the ride of the year, right? Is what he'd call it. And,
the check the mail rides.
Yeah. And so he would invite certain people because, I mean, Rob would always like to get people in trouble, right? Down in a ravine and just sit up on top and laugh. But there were certain times where it was certain people going with Rob because he knew those people could follow him or get to where we were going. So that was good. But I still like to take people with less skill, I guess, out and show them a good time. Because some of them people want to learn and get better, and that's the only way they can. So, and
I think you can do that and be smart. I mean, to that point with Rob and Dave, I can't think of one time that I ever felt in danger.
For sure.
Like I was definitely pushed to my limits, like and beyond, but and just stuff that I was extremely uncomfortable with. But never felt for a minute that Rob was like, I knew he was pushing me into those situations, but it was more. But yeah, it was never going to try and get me hurt or anything like that. So I think there's definitely take guys with you, teach them. That's the only way they're going to advance. But maybe maybe be methodical about it. And
Yeah, there's an element of getting out of your comfort zone pushes you to become a better rider. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. And Rob and Dave were great at that. And it could be in the category of this is a little more dangerous style of riding, but the prep that they did, Duncan Lee just did another seminar on pre-ride prep for safety. The prep that Rob and Dave would do was on par with the ride that they were about to go take people on.
Yeah.
And never once would they just leave you in this. They were hairy situations. They were definitely hard rides. And this is not just a Rob and Dave thing. This goes across the board for Tony and Carl and anybody, Keith Curtis and Jay Manenberry and all these guys. They all ride on that same level, but they're all fantastic with taking people on those types of rides to help them get better, but also make sure that the bases are covered and everybody's safe.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. All right, next question. When we talk about snowmobile reviews, which we go and we test everything multiple times a year, we're on them in January, and then we're riding them the new stuff throughout the spring, and then we get a longer session the end of February. But when we do the reviews, we always wind up talking about the premium, top dollar, high end stuff, the free rides, the Turbo Rs, the Patriot Boosts, the M858s. What is the cheapest way to get into the sport? If you knowing what you know, if you were going to go get into the sport as somebody on the outside.
Yeah,
no riding experience? Or have you rode?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, you could say, well, I've got riding experience. I haven't been in the sport for 5 years. I need to get back into it. Do I have to go buy the top of the line sled? What else is out there?
Okay.
That's actually, it's kind of a tough question. I've said it a couple of times this weekend, but I'm a big fan of the right gear for the right stuff. I have a really hard time if I'm okay, I know that's what I'm going to want to ride, to go get something that maybe is a starter, or I'd almost rather go without till I can have what I want, But when we talk about, getting into the industry, we talked a little bit about how capable, as we've ridden some of the crossover sleds, some of the, even just the naturally aspirated 850 Summit, it's a phenomenal sled. I really think any one of us could ride that sled all day long and have a great time and never miss out, but be super forgiving for someone that maybe isn't super aggressive yet, and kind of learning the ropes, and maybe spending a little bit of time in flatter areas learning how to maneuver the sled and handle it. But it's still I think all the sled manufacturers have actually done a great job. Even the Catalyst 600, that's a very capable, very lightweight feeling sled, and the way that if you had a new rider on something like that, I think that'd be a phenomenal little starter sled, or something for a teenage boy or girl, something that still maneuvers like the bigger, more powerful sleds, so that they can kind of learn all of that. But I don't know, I get a little nervous. If you're just going to start riding trails, you're just looking to go up and make a ride in on a trail and stuff, there's lots of different options, I think, that you could get there. But if you're actually trying to get maybe into some more deep snow, backcountry type riding, I do think you need to spend a little money getting into something that will actually do that. Otherwise, I've had my kids on older platforms and the newer platforms, and even, I think, I can't remember if Kyler was 10, 11, 12. He was, in a meadow, dragging a foot, spinning cookies, and I'm just it's a 500+ pound sled, wet. I don't know what else you couldn't do that on some old platforms,
Right.
So I do think that having the right machine can help excel your riding abilities too. So
yeah. Well, and I think you gotta, what are you getting in snowmobiling for? Are you getting in it just to go on a leisure ride, through the mountains? Are you looking to get to where your Chris Brand is? Not that you probably ever would, but so I think that's the biggest thing. And then if you're patient enough, you jump on KSL or Facebook Marketplace is getting popular, and just be patient. You can find that right sled for a decent price, especially in today's market. I think used prices are down, so kind of see what your budget is. But I think you could find a 2 or 3 year old sled to get into it, and then I guess it just depends on who you are. But there's a lot of good decent gear out there that's not real expensive. I've been walking around here at this show today, and you got your 509, your Climb, and is it DSG?
Yeah, DSG.
DSG. I mean, they're blowing stuff out at 75%. I almost picked up a monosuit for my boy, but I think it was a little too small for $150. So, if you're looking to get in, come to these shows and get there, and then springtime's a great time to buy a snowmobile. I feel like you'd save a couple $1,000s. So I think your timing, just try and pick up those good deals, and I think that's the only way in, because it is an expensive hobby. Gas and oil's not cheap. Need a truck to pull it. So if you can find the right deals at the right time, I think. When we
talk about the top of the line stuff that we test, what's the median price point, do you think, of the stuff that we're usually talking about? The Patriot Boost,
20 to 25.
20, 25.
That'd be the top, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh,
the top end.
The median of the top.
Yeah.
22, maybe 22.5,
22.
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So I was looking at like Arctic Cat, Skidoo, and Polaris, like base model type stuff, and if you just narrow it down to 600cc engines, it seems like 13,000 to 14,000 is the entry level for a brand new mountain sled.
Yeah.
Which is really good price. And then like Polaris, the 850 SP, that's 14 grand. 15 grand. 15 grand for an 850 RMK SP, which that's a lot. That's a big difference versus like 22, 23 grand.
Yeah, for
what
sure.
we're talking about with the Patriot Boost. So just because we're talking about testing this high-end stuff and we're doing reviews on like the ultimate machines, doesn't mean that what you're looking at to get into the sport is that same price point. Like you can get brand new equipment for even like an Arctic Cat M400. You can get into that for around 10 grand.
Yeah.
That's pretty small step. It's not as capable as like a 600 or an 850. But you're 10 grand to step into it, 13 grand for a 600, and then 15 grand for an 850.
Yep.
That's not a bad entry point compared to the high end stuff.
For sure.
Well, and it's awesome that it is neat that the industry has tried to develop some smaller sleds. I mean, that is tough, like the 200s that came out, and then which they're all pretty much the same across the board, just different branding and stuff. And then the 400 models, there's a couple of those out there. So it's kind of neat that, if you did want to just get someone used to, how the throttle works and learning that way, it's kind of cool that they've done that. I know that, like in the moto industry, that's a tough one, because there's a point at which they kind of grow out of the small stuff, and it's a huge leap to the next one.
Yeah.
So kudos to the manufacturers for making it feasible for younger riders. So.
Yeah. That the Skidoo makes a Summit Neo, which is a little bit smaller platform. It's probably a bigger platform than like the M400 that we're talking about with Arctic Cat.
Yeah.
It's a 600 twin engine, and it's just detuned. It's got a smaller exhaust pipe and different fuel mapping, but it's a great mountain sled. Like we've had one of these in the fleet for a few years. My daughter rides it; she loves it. Those things are $8 grand, and that's a legit mountain sled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's felt comfortable on it, right? Doesn't scare her, and she said she's ready to maybe get something a little more powerful now.
We were walking through the show, 20 minutes ago, and she's like, "Can I ride a turbo this year?"
Do it.
That's not that big of a step, 600 to a turbo.
She's not scared, but yeah, there is an entry level to this stuff. So when we talk about these turbo sleds and lightweight stuff and high performance stuff, like there's a different level of getting into the sport.
For sure.
Yeah.
What about like the transporting end of it? If you were out of the sport, so you have all the experience that you have, but you took a 5-6 year break, coming back into it, what would you pick up first for as far as transportation? Trailer, sled deck, open trailer?
That one's tough.
I would think a pickup and a sled deck would probably be your ultimate package, honestly. I guess you can still pull the old two-place open trailers and stuff, but I almost bought a sled deck before I got an enclosed. Just convenient, I guess. Everything's all there with you instead of having to hook onto a trailer.
Yeah, the beauty part about that is you never have to look for a place to turn around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you keep the junk off your sled.
Like there's
salt.
There's places in Teton Valley. I was talking to a buddy yesterday about this. Teton Valley has phenomenal riding areas, but no parking.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and that's all
it's
you see
almost
up there.
intentional.
Flatbeds. Or,
Yeah, so everybody's a flatbed or a sled deck
Yep.
because you can't take a trailer into these places. I tried once on a ride with Rob and Dave, and we went up. We were going up a hill. The traction control on the truck was coming on, and I don't know, didn't realize it and didn't make the hill and wound up sliding down backwards and took out a fence. It was fun. Anyway, good times with Rob and Dave.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all right, last question here, and it's kind of along the same lines. What would you get to put your kids on, and how would you keep them in the sport? Because that seems to be a transition. It's easy to have your kids ride when they're little, but then how do you keep them involved in the sport?
Yeah, that one's tough. I was, what I just thought of as you said that, because I was just thinking, yeah, we've got these sleds, but they're not, you don't really do a ton of backcountry. You wouldn't get into some real terrain. And I've struggled because I feel like I tried to take a couple of my boys out when they were a little younger, and just the their overall weight and upper body strength and ability to handle a sled in a backcountry situation is a little tougher. Without really having practiced a few techniques that would make that more effortless for them and easier to ride. And so I think Steph nailed it on the head really well last night when she said you got to be patient. And that's probably the hardest part is, you've ridden for however many years, and now you're taking your boy out, and you have to step down to his level and make sure that he or she can learn those techniques that will help them be confident when they get on the mountain and stuff. But I think too many times I've seen this in other industries. People just, we're going from here to here, and then they get stuck or they hit a tree and they feel bad, and I don't think they want to do it anymore. So I think there's probably a fine line between giving them new experiences and not scaring them. So.
Yeah. I've learned that with Easton. He'll be 21 here in a week or so, but I'll take him pretty much wherever I go. He's just got to that level of confidence, and then kind of pushing him to that limit. But I remember teaching him on these sleds, you've got to keep the fun factor in it, because I remember a couple different rides, he'd just keep getting stuck, and then you get tired, and then you get mad and yelling at him, and he didn't want to go again just because Dad thinks I suck. And, Dad. So you've definitely got to keep that fun factor, and I guess it goes back to the whole coaching aspect of sports. You've got to keep that fun factor to keep kids interested. And you got to keep them warm. Warm's a big thing. You get a kid cold and they hate life.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is fun factor, and let them advance how they advance. Don't push them to a limit, but you can't push them too far to where, like you said, it scares them. No, I don't want to go. It's scary.
You guys even had a good point last night. Send them to ride Rasmussen or another clinic of some sort. They're instructors for a reason, because they have the patience to do it, and it's not mom and dad, or I don't know. Sometimes that could be a way to maybe get them more confident. So,
but there is nothing better than you and your boy going out and having him ride on your tail feathers or him leading you. It's pretty dang fun.
Well, it's something. This is something that worked for my son Porter and my daughters that ride. When I grew up, it was the same situation. But when I grew up, my dad was more worried about the snowmobile than us riding it.
I've been there.
If we cracked the hood or broke a windshield, back then there was a lot different situation. Didn't scratch it. These were photo sleds. Some of them were prototypes that we were on as kids and everything. Yeah. But I just took a different approach with my kids growing up, and I remember Porter teaching them how to dirt bike. I remember telling him, don't worry about the bike. Yeah. Just make it do whatever it can do to get you to the next place.
Yeah.
And don't worry about it. If you got to lay it over, you got to dump it down. Don't worry about it. It's a piece of equipment, and it's a piece of equipment designed to make you come out and have fun, because I want you to learn how to do this stuff. And same thing with snowmobiles. Just be careful. Don't run it into a tree, right. but don't be paranoid about me yelling at you because you're rubbing it against a branch or something and scratching the sticker. Yeah. Just go learn how to ride it. I'll be tolerant to that, and learn how to ride it and push your limits and be comfortable with push your limits. And now, that's helped him, I think, maybe get out of his comfort zone and go try to do things that he sees other people doing. And my daughter's the same way. Just they're more comfortable that way because that's not in their head so much.
Yeah.
But
I think you make better decisions too. Like when you're worried about certain things, you forget to pay attention to what's going on. You're worried about the wrong things. So
Yeah.
I've done that before.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. We'll wrap it up there. Keep this one brief. All right. Bruce Kerbs, Justin Stevens, thanks for coming on today.
man.
We'll catch you guys later.
Yep.